Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on my fiddle leaf fig, or Ficus lyrata. I started the bonsai work on this tree in June of this year, in June 2020, and it's been doing really well and it looks really healthy. Let's go back in time now and I'll show you the root pruning and top pruning I did to the tree. At the moment this tree is so top heavy it won't even stand up, and especially if the wind blows it just tips it over. So I thought, where should I trunk chop it? And I was thinking, well, maybe I should keep, some foliage on it, prune it off to here. And I think that's a good idea, getting rid of most of the top, but I'll keep some green leaves on it, and maybe that'll help it recover. All right, here I go. So I've got a couple leaves down low, and there's another smaller one up there. And then they get pretty big, so I'm going to prune it off here. Done. So the top of the tree, which acts like a sail, is gone. I'll have to prune the roots that are coming out the bottom of the pot. You can see them growing out the drainage holes, and then I'll be able to get the tree out of the pot. Just grab the tree, ease it out. Wow, definitely packed with roots in there. The next step is to rake out the root system. So again, I'll start from the center of the tree and rake outwards. I don't think this will be real easy to rake out because it's so packed in here. This tree, I just bought it from a big box store. They're quite inexpensive here. I think I got this for $6.99. So yeah, they're quite common as houseplants, these. Terrible tree for bonsai. It's the worst tree imaginable. When you're picking a tree out from the store, always look at the surface roots. And that, if you get good surface roots, then that's the start of a good tree. It doesn't really matter what's happening up top. That can be pruned and shaped. And these roots are just so packed in here. I'm going to have to cut away some of them. I just can't comb this out, it's too dense. So I'll just cut away the layer on the outside. I don't like doing this, but that's why I tend to repot more often before they get so root bound like this. Once they're root bound, it's difficult to comb them out and work on the roots. So there's that outer layer that's growing against the pot. Gives me something to work with. So I'm going to start a bit of pruning. There's a root growing straight down here. Get rid of that, and then I can get that off the bottom. I'm trying to get rid of some of these thick roots down at the bottom here. It's always best not to just go blindly cutting into your root system, because sometimes you cut one root up here and the whole root mass falls off. They're all connected to one root. So it's best to try and figure out what's going on with the root system and then start to cut. So the trunks on these Ficus lyratas are quite slow to thicken up. You can get quite a big tree and it'll still have a fairly small diameter trunk. And I'm thinking the reason for that might be that they've evolved in nature with these giant leaves, and I'm sure when the wind comes up it blows the tree around, and maybe with a thicker trunk it wouldn't bend as much in the wind and it might just snap the tree off. So I'm thinking with those huge leaves it probably has a narrow trunk that's flexible, and in a monsoon or a hurricane it could just flex over and bend in the wind like a palm tree. So instead of snapping off. So I'm thinking that's why they naturally have thin trunks. And I'm getting close to the point where I think I can wash the roots and see exactly what's going on here. It's quite exciting. There is a lot of good flare at the base of this tree. So I'm going to prune off these roots that are higher up so I can get my radial root system developing down lower and keep that nice flare on the trunk. So let me get out some pruners and I'll prune off some of these higher roots. And I think that's good. I think that's quite good. I will want, there's some roots. You can see some of these roots have grown out, hit the edge of the pot, and then start going weird directions. So I'll prune that off, the strange direction part. But I don't want to remove everything. I think I've got it down to a good safe amount of roots, and it's ready for planting. I think somewhere there is pretty good. Looks decent. And I'll see about the planting height. It's got to come down a bit. I think that's not a bad height there. And I'll try and arrange the roots the best I can. I'm really excited about this tree. I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm really excited about developing that root base, getting some branches on the top of the tree. I love seeing unusual trees as bonsai. And again, I'll place the tree in the greenhouse just to keep it out of the wind, keep it nice and warm and humid until the roots get established. A lot of my trees start off as sticks in a pot like this, but eventually they develop into a nice tree-like form. So I'm hoping the same happens with this stick in a pot. This is my second attempt at growing a miniaturized version of this ficus species. My first one, I pruned it down short, I root pruned it, potted it up, and it started to leaf out, but then it died back. I think it was because I did it in the winter, and it just wasn't enough light and warmth to keep it going. So this one, I took it a little easier. I didn't prune it back severely, and it seems to be doing really well. Here's a look at the leaves on the plant. They're just enormous. So you're probably wondering, why would I try and create a miniaturized version of this tree? I was at a bonsai show put on by the Macedo Bonsai Society, and they're located near Toronto. And in the greenhouse that they had the show, there was a full-size version of this tree growing in the greenhouse, and it had all these nice buttressed, fin-like rocket roots or ribbon roots, and fantastic bark and a beautiful canopy. And I was just fascinated by the tree. I thought it was just beautiful. And I thought, well, let's try and create a bonsai version of it, or a miniaturized version of the tree. I don't care how large the leaves are. I just like the species of the tree. And that's the way it is with a lot of my bonsai. I'm developing a miniaturized version of a tree, and I don't care that it has little tiny leaves. I like the structure, the branch structure, the roots and the trunk and the bark. And yeah, so maybe I'm more of a tree collector than trying to grow, show bonsai trees. I enjoy growing large leaf bonsai like this just as much as the bonsai with the tiny little leaves. I think every tree has merits, and it can be appreciated for the beauty of the tree. It doesn't have to be something with really tiny leaves. I find that, the bigger the leaf size on a tree, the bigger it naturally is. Usually the easier it is to reduce them. You can even see on this tree that, that upper leaf was the size of my hand. This one's about half that size. And I think, with more branching on this tree, I can probably get the leaf size down half of this again, at least. So I think in the end, I can get a nice canopy on this tree, and the leaf size will be fairly small and in proportion with the tree. I did the first root work on this tree this year, and I said in the last video I want to watch the base of the tree and see if it starts to swell, because it had, the roots sorted out in a radial pattern for the first time. And when you get those radial roots, you start to get a swelling at the base of the tree. It starts to flow into the root base really nicely. So I'm just going to look at the root base today and see how it's progressing. I'll just brush away the soil from the roots here, and we'll just have a look and see how it's doing. I did plant it fairly deeply in the soil, to keep all those radial surface roots safe from drying out. And now I can probably expose them a little more. Here's a look at the base of the tree, and you can see it is starting to flare a bit. So eventually it'll come down straight from the trunk, the line, and it'll round and flare into the roots. I'll just wash them off so we can see them a little better. like that. The tree is looking really good. It's got a good root base developing. It looks healthy. It's getting branches on it. And now I've got to think about the styling. When I pruned the tree last time, it was just a tall stick in a pot and it used to tip over in the wind. Now it's nice and stable, and up top it's getting branching. Here's a shot looking up underneath the canopy, and you can see I pruned it right in here, and I've got a branch forming out to the right hand side here, and there's also a tall one on the left hand side. So it's divided from 1 into 2. So today I'll be doing some further pruning up top. I'm going to leave the tree really tall like this because another strategy with large leafed bonsai is to make a large tree. So that's what I'll be doing with this one. Eventually it'll take up a lot of space, probably more space than I have, but hopefully once I get that new greenhouse built, the trees can stay outside in the large greenhouse and I don't have to worry so much about having large bonsai. I would encourage anyone to develop their favorite species of tree into a bonsai, no matter what size leaves are on the tree in nature. So I'm going to start the pruning today. I've got this yellow leaf here. This is one of the original leaves that I, left on the tree when I pruned it last time. And it's getting really old and tattered and it's done its job. So I'm going to prune that off. And this will let a little more light into the canopy of the tree. You can see how old that was. I'm going to prune the new growth back. I want a lot of branching in this tree, and right now it's really vigorous. It's been growing all summer, and I want to prune it back, and maybe it'll stimulate more branching down lower like it did with this, that lowest branch there. So I'm going to prune back to outward facing leaves, which means I can just take the tip off this branch right here. Like that. So I've got 2 outward facing leaves here, so I should get some subdividing up here. I'll rotate it around to this branch now, and this branch I have 2 outward facing leaves here, so I can prune just above there to here, like that. Takes the tip of the branch off. So that has my 2 branches pruned, and hopefully they'll subdivide, so I'll go from 2 branches in the canopy to hopefully 4. On this side of the tree I have the stub where I pruned it last time, so I can prune that off and just have my division here. Here's where the upper canopy divides, so I have the original trunk line coming up here to a stump. Now, do I have any more branches growing in there? Is the question. I think I do have a 3rd branch coming up here. I do. So I'm dividing from 1 into 3 here, which is quite nice. I like that. So I just need to prune this part of the stub off. I'm just taking some dead leaves off here. Yeah, so there's just a stub in this part. So I have 1, 2, 3 branches. I'll come in with the branch pruners and we'll just clean that up, leaving my 3 branches. Here I go. Like that. I'll just clean it up a bit. And a little more off the top here. It's quite hard to get in here with all these leaves. There we go. I got it now. There. So that cleans this area up now. It's looking really nice. I'm really happy to get this lowest branch. It shows that, it might branch on the older wood of the trunk. It's probably not going to make it into the final design. I'll want to see those roots in the trunk coming up into a canopy, but I'm going to leave it on for now. It won't hurt. Even if I have to prune it off later and it'll leave a scar there. Scars on the trunks heal quickly if you're growing the top of the tree. Just so much vigor going up to the top that they thicken up quickly and all the scars heal. So I don't think it'll be a problem on this tree to remove this later on. It might help thicken up the base of the tree a bit, and yeah, so we'll leave it. I do always have the option, you know, making it a shorter tree, making it more bush-like so that it starts branching right at the base and just kind of builds up like a low spreading umbrella tree. But I think I'm going to stick with my original styling, which is to keep the trunk fairly tall and develop it into a fairly large tree. I will, however, prune this lowest branch so it's not shooting up straight. It's more of a horizontal branch. So I'm going to find some leaves that fan outwards from the trunk, and I'd say these two. So I'll prune just above there. So here I go, like that. Here's what my Ficus lyrata looks like at the end of 2020. I'll spin it around. It's still a bit of a stick in a pot. I'll show you a video of that Ficus lyrata that was in the greenhouse. It'll be interesting to see in the future if I can get those nice buttressed roots and a thicker trunk and a canopy on the tree. But that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.